Hello and welcome to the PD template tutorial. And yes, this is an actual tutorial teaching you that you need to put walls around your PD. But this is not new for you, right? Other people have covered this very same topic before. Direct fire units will be stopped by walls on average. Sometimes the shots connect, sometimes they don't. And if they don't, then the PD has a lot more survivability. That's why you always ring it. But what most people don't tell you is how many walls do you use to ring it. And these are the efficient templates. You have the minimalist template that just uses 4 segments. And if the engineer is building it and the corner segment would be out of the build range, then this template makes sure that you save some travel time and get it up quickly. You don't consume a lot of space in your base, and you can spam this template very easily. Then you have this template, which is basically for mind games, right? You take this very shape twice and you put it once on the top and once on the bottom. And in some cases, you simply fill the one side with the wall and the other side with a PD. And in the other case, you invert this setting. And from simply scouting this shape, the enemy won't be able to tell which one is the wall and which one is the PD. Aeon and UEF need to find out which one is the PD because they're going to fire at this wall forever and the PD will never take damage. But Seraphim and Cybran can afford to shoot at this wall and they will still kill this PD, but it will take much longer. So this template is quite practical and I can see why people use it, but it is in direct contrast to this one, which is trying to add some survivability while minimizing travel time. And this one is pretty much maximizing travel time, but you also get these extra advantages, especially against RD. PD is usually not survivable against RD, but this very template adds survivability against RD. Even after scouting, the enemy is going to have to zoom in to tell which one is the PD and which one isn't, because these advantages of range rings when you hover over the unit only appear when it's your own units and not for the enemy units. So with dark colors especially, it may be hard to tell which one is the PD even after scouting. And lastly, you have this efficient PD that is simply a compromise between the low and the high travel time, and you add corner segments to add extra survivability. And this survivability of course only applies to direct fire units, but it actually works. So I tested it, I compared this template with this template, and this is more survivable because units that are shooting from the side are going to be blocked too. So this works. It's not just a design aspect in terms of creativity or style, right? Then you may want to find out whether you build the PD first or the wall first. And most people build the PD first, and this is the right decision. Because most of the time, you are going to build PD in your base, and engineers are going to build it while tanks are attacking it. And in this situation, you want to have the PD first, because that's going to kill the tanks. And some engineers may survive if you do that, even if the PD is not walled. But if the engineers are building the wall first, and the PD doesn't finish because they start the wall first, then all engineers will die before the PD is even finished, right? And having extra survivability for an unfinished PD doesn't make any sense in this setup. The only situation where you would want to build the wall first and the PD last is when you fight ACU versus ACU and no units are around. Then you should probably start the wall first because the ACU projectiles are going to connect with the wall instead of the PD, and you can finish the PD without it receiving any damage from the enemy ACU. But that is something you can queue up manually if you have to. And usually you should always start with the PD first and then add the wall in the generic case, so to say. So this is something you should consider when you're designing your efficient templates. Then of course not every template is efficient. Some people just adjust their template for style. I have my cross, Lujun has his shuriken, and whatever the hell this thing is. And then I see some people basically make another compromise out of this and this by simply leaving out 2 of the corner segments for style, right? So you can use this to like pretty much customize your layout for like whatever, right? Simply because you like it. Sort of like the fashion of FAF. And lastly, you may wonder if you should wall your anti-air turret with walls, and the answer is maybe, because bombers and gunships are still going to deal full damage to the anti-air, but tanks are going to deal reduced damage to the anti-air, and some of the damage is soaked by the walls. So this does not add survivability against air units, but it does add survivability against direct fire land units. And if you have time to build this anti-air and you plan it, then walling it may make sense. First, you have the extra survivability against tanks. Second, it may be more difficult for the enemy to tell whether this is an anti-air turret or a PD. So having this is certainly a good idea whenever you have time to build it. But you should not always use this template when you build anti-air, because in some cases you have to spam it, and losing extra time to walls while you're defending against air units and the walls do not help you against the air units is a bad idea. So if you are fine with having multiple templates, such as a PD template and an anti-air template that looks exactly the same, then you can go for it. But usually if you just want to tell what you're building by the shape, if you use this quick menu, right, then having simply one PD template is a good idea. So I hope this helped somewhat, and see you tomorrow for the next tutorial.